Due to copyright, I can't publish many audiobooks on YouTube. At our audiobook novel service, we offer access to over 300 full novels from Pocket FM, Webnovel, Audible, Wuxia, and more, all in high-quality audio format. Each novel is available with a one-time payment only. No subscriptions, no monthly payment, and no ads. Payments via PayPal or Ko-fi. To browse the full list of available novels, message me directly on Telegram or WhatsApp, or check out our full catalog on Discord. Chapter 141. Birthday Gift. Let's see. Alaric rubbed his chin. He thought really hard, but no suitable name came to his mind, so he gave up on thinking and randomly gave him a suggestion. How about Franklin? Franklin. Black Dog repeated the name. It wasn't common, but he knew a few people who had this name. However, the thought of having a real name made him excited and honored. Looking at his satisfied face, Alaric tapped the man's shoulder. Then from now on, you are Franklin. I will invite a priest to baptize you once we return to the estate. Having gained his new name, Franklin couldn't conceal the joy on his face. Thank you, my lord. Thank you for giving me a name. It's just a small matter. Alaric waved his hand with a faint smile. By the way, I heard from Ivana that you were looking for a job. Why don't you work for me? If you agree, you will become a knight of House Silversword, and you will be compensated accordingly. Alaric could tell that this former slave warrior wasn't just an ordinary knight. His aura was stable and firm, just like Arthur's before he had advanced to the realm of elite knights. With some resources and time, this man would definitely become an elite knight. Hearing this, Franklin bent his knee and lowered his head as he uttered, "It is my honor to serve you, my lord." "Good. You may rise." Alaric nodded with a pleased look. And that was how Alaric gained another subordinate with a high potential. The sky turned dark as evening came. The group was already close to North Pinetown, so they decided to continue their journey. The sick, elderly, and children had already been sent to the town via carriage, so there was nothing to worry about. By the time they arrived at the entrance of North Pinetown, it was already past midnight. A group of volunteers were waiting at the gates of the town to help the residents of Alverton move to their temporary shelter. The construction of the new houses was still underway, and given the scale of the project, it might take a few weeks to more than a month before everything would be completed. While their new houses were still being constructed, the residents of Alverton had to stay at the temporary shelter made of simple tents. No one complained about this arrangement. In fact, everyone was grateful for House Silversword's help. The residents were especially grateful to Alaric and the warriors who had escorted them all the way here from Alverton. Upon their arrival, Alaric invited Ivana to the main mansion. "Follow me. I have something for you." Alaric smiled at her. Ivana glanced at him curiously as she nodded her head. "All right." Before following him inside, she gestured to Neo and the other elves not to worry. Although reluctant to leave her alone, the elves had no choice but to follow her commands. "Your subordinates are obedient," Alaric joked in a teasing voice as soon as they entered the mansion. Ivana didn't say anything upon hearing this and just laughed lightly in response. A moment later, Alaric brought her to the room where the saber-fanged wolf cubs were staying. "Do you remember these guys?" Alaric glanced at the elf while inviting her inside the room. After noticing that no one else was in the room, Ivana removed her hood and gently tucked her hair behind her ears. "Of course I remember them. We found these little cubs inside a cave on that stormy night." She chuckled. Looking at her beautiful side profile, Alaric almost fell into a trance. I remember there were 6 of them. Why are there only 5 here?" Ivana raised an eyebrow in surprise. "About that, do you remember Hershey from House Paxley?" Alaric explained the situation to her. Ivana felt inexplicably envious when she heard this. She couldn't understand why she was feeling like this. While she was quietly staring at the wolf cubs, Alaric grabbed one of them and said, "I wasn't able to prepare a gift for your birthday, so I decided to give you one of the wolf cubs." Ivana was surprised to hear this. "You remember?" She thought that he had already forgotten about it since she had only said it in passing. Alaric smiled. "Of course. Why would I forget your birthday?" He grabbed her hand, making her jolt at the sudden touch. Just as she was about to pull her hand, he handed her the wolf cub. Here. Happy birthday. I hope you will take care of this wolf cub. Ivana lowered her head and stared at the wolf cub in her arms. It was round and its white fur was looking vibrant and healthy. The cute little thing slowly closed its eyes and drifted into sleep. Why don't you give it a name? To tell you the truth, only one of them has a name, Alaric awkwardly stated. Ivana gently brushed the cub's fur as she replied. Then I will call it Ely. It was a simple name, but she looked happy, so Alaric didn't bother to offer the suggestions he had prepared. At this moment, the cyan screen suddenly appeared before him. Undersir. Mission complete. You received 100 stat points. Undersir. Alaric Silversword, Knight, EXP. 500/500. Cannot receive more EXP before advancement. Potential, B. Traits, Horseback Riding, C. Swordsmanship, SSS. Close Combat, C. Archery, F. Hunting, E. Tracking, E. Sixth Sense, E. Monster Affinity, F. Mana Gathering, C. Strength, 100. Stamina, 50+. Agility, 100. Vitality, 32+. Endurance, 47+.
Mana, 100.
Battle points, 5,000. Cannot receive more battle points before advancement. Stat points, 213. Requirements for the next advancement, 500 EXP, 100 in all attributes, and 5,000 battle points. Looking at his stat points, Alaric realized that he finally had enough to max out all his attributes. Without hesitation, Alaric distributed his stat points. Stamina, 50, 100. Vitality, 32, 100. Endurance, 47, 100. Stat points, 213, 42. You have completed the requirements for your advancement. Do you want to use 5,000 battle points to advance to the next realm? Chapter 142, Elite Knight. Ivana was still there, so Alaric hesitated momentarily, but he still clicked. Yes. You have been promoted to the Elite Knight realm. Alaric Silversword, Elite Knight EXP. 0/1000. Potential, B. Traits, Horseback Riding, C. Swordsmanship, SSS. Close Combat, C. Archery, F. Hunting, E. Tracking, E. Sixth Sense, E. Monster Affinity, F. Mana Gathering, C. Strength, 100, 150. Stamina, 100, 150. Agility, 100, 150. Vitality, 100, 150. Endurance, 100, 150.
Mana, 100, 150.
Battle points, 0. Stat points, 42. Requirements for the next advancement, 1,000 EXP, 250 in all attributes, and 10,000 battle points. New daily mission has been loaded. Undersir. Daily mission. Set 1,000 weighted push-ups, 1,000 weighted pull-ups, 1,000 weighted squats, 1 hour weighted planking. Set B. 1,000 mana-infused vertical slashes, 1,000 mana-infused horizontal slashes, 1,000 mana-infused diagonal slashes, 1,000 mana-infused stabs. Rewards, 20 battle points, 3 EXP, 3 stat points. Penalty for failure, none. Undersir. A suppressive aura leaked out from his body as soon as he advanced. Alaric also felt a searing pain in every inch of his muscles as his attributes increased dramatically. Furthermore, the mana that coalesced in his body started spreading out, providing overflowing energy to every fiber of his being. Since Ivana was just in front of him, she immediately felt the abrupt change in his aura. This aura. She was so shocked when she sensed his aura that she couldn't believe that it came from him. With her eyes wide open, she called out to him. Alaric. Alaric smiled and made a shushing gesture. You are really a lucky star. Last time we found the wolf cubs and now I managed to advance because of your presence. He chuckled. Ivana stared at him speechlessly. So he wants to brush off his advancement just like that? The elven princess couldn't be bothered to argue with him. Since he didn't want to tell her how he had broken through, she didn't pursue the matter. Congratulations and thank you for your gift. I will cherish Ely and treat him like a family. Ivana beamed at him, her smile looking even more enchanting than the most beautiful flower. Note: Ely is a male wolf cub. Thank you. Alaric smiled at her. By the way, how long do you plan to stay here? He quickly changed the topic. Hearing this, Ivana thought for a moment before she replied while shaking her head. I'm not sure. Why don't you stay here for a while? Alaric suggested. He enjoyed being with her, so he didn't want her to leave too soon. That? Ivana hesitated. She had already completed her goal here, so they were supposed to return home. But looking at his expectant gaze, she couldn't bring herself to reject him. There's not much to do in the kingdom anyway. It should be fine if I stay here for a few days or so. Thinking about this, she responded. All right, we can stay here for a few more days. Great. I'll have someone clean up the guest mansion. You and your subordinates can stay there. The next morning, Alaric and Elena headed to the dining hall to eat breakfast with his parents. My lord, I was already asleep when you returned. Elena sighed as she revealed a look of regret. It's all right. Alaric gently smiled at her. The two chatted along the way and they only stopped when they were already outside the dining hall. Upon entering, Alaric greeted his parents before nodding at the old butler. Sit down, you two. Maria beckoned to them as she pointed at the vacant seats. Meanwhile, Lucas raised his eyebrows when he sensed Alaric's aura. Elite Knight. Alaric didn't intentionally reveal his aura, but how could he hide it from a transcendent knight like Lucas? The moment he entered the room, the Baron immediately felt his presence. What made Lucas even more surprised was the intensity of his aura. He just advanced to the realm of elite knights, but his strength is already unfathomable. Lucas was stunned by his son's sudden spike in power. He sent the butler a deep look and instructed, Bastian, please send the servants out for a moment. Hearing this, the butler nodded. Yes, my lord. While Bastian was instructing the servants to step out of the dining hall, Elena pointed at herself as she whispered to Alaric. Should I leave too? Alaric shook his head. It's fine, Elena. You can stay here. Okay. Elena felt that she was about to hear something important, so she felt uncomfortable. Alaric sensed her anxiety, so he tapped her shoulder and sent her a reassuring look. After all the servants left, Lucas stared at Alaric and uttered in a serious voice, When did you become an elite knight? Hearing this, both Maria and Elena were dumbstruck. They couldn't help but stare at Alaric in disbelief and waited for him to confirm the truth. Sensing everyone's gazes on him, Alaric remained calm. He knew that his father would notice his aura, so there was no use in hiding it. I advanced last night. Lucas narrowed his eyes, but he soon relaxed his gaze after a few seconds. Good job. The Baron praised him with a faint smile. Thank you, my lord. Alaric chuckled. Alaric, is it really true? Maria still couldn't believe it. Alaric turned his head and nodded at his mother. Yes, Mom. Your son is now an elite knight. Maria gasped in shock. Elena also covered her mouth with her hands. This is a great achievement, but you must not disclose it to the public. Lucas warned him in a stern voice. I understand. Alaric nodded. He understood his father's implications. The whole empire would be turned upside down if news about his advancement would spread. It was even possible to attract jealousy, and there was a high chance that Alaric would be targeted by someone. Oh right, there's one more thing, my lord. Alaric thought about Galanor's breakthrough. What is it? Lucas raised an eyebrow while staring at him with an inquisitive look. Galanor has become a transcendent knight. Chapter 143, Orc Subjugation Mission. What? Lucas couldn't remain calm anymore. There were only a few transcendent knights in the entire empire, and all of them were famous warriors whose names were etched in the Estanian Dragon leaderboard. Wherever they go, people would flock to see them. That was how special they were. Who else knows this? Lucas asked in a low voice. I haven't told anyone about this, and I also told Galliner to keep quiet, Alaric replied. Lucas leaned on his seat and said, You made a good decision. If that is true, then we can make use of that to our advantage. Maria suddenly spoke, her eyes gleaming with wisdom. Go on. Lucas gestured for her to continue. Maria nodded and adjusted her posture before she said, The Crown Prince and the Second Prince both have powerful forces, so if we want to establish a third force, it's necessary to have sufficient strength to contend with their forces. That will make other undecided noble households positively consider joining our side. Lucas frowned upon hearing this. If we expose his strength, we might attract unnecessary attention. There's nothing to worry about that. Maria shook her head. With 2 transcendent knights on our side, people won't take us lightly, and as long as they aren't idiots, they won't dare to attack us. She added with a snort. However, we must create a stage for Sir Galliner to reveal his strength. That way, we can maximize the publicity and get those undecided nobles to support us. But first, you must accept that challenge and win overwhelmingly. Maria glanced at her husband as she talked about this. Challenge? Alaric was taken aback. Someone from the leaderboard challenged me. Lucas chuckled while shaking his head, looking seemingly amused by this. Oh! Alaric was stunned upon hearing his confirmation. He knew that his father had kept the 9th rank in the Estanian Dragon leaderboard for a long time. He wondered which brave person dared to challenge him. I was postponing this since you were still out of town. But now that you're here, I can go without worry. Lucas's lips curved upwards. He then waved his hand and said, Let's discuss the details later. We should eat first. As soon as he uttered those words, he called Bastian and told him to serve their food. After breakfast, they headed straight to Lucas's study, and the Baron also told Alaric to bring Galliner. As soon as they gathered, the meeting began. At first, the Baron asked Galliner some questions about how he had broken through. It was only a simple question and answer, so it didn't take much time. After that short interview with Galliner, they finally talked about the main objective of the meeting. If only there was a quick way for us to make Sir Galliner's name known to the public, Maria mumbled as she entered into deep thought. Hearing this, Alaric thought about a brilliant plan. How about this? Everyone turned their gazes at him the moment he spoke. Alaric didn't shy away and continued. Do you remember the large orc settlement close to Alverton? When this was mentioned, Maria's eyes lit up. Are you thinking of subjugating the orc settlement? Alaric nodded. Truthfully, I already thought of doing it when I suggested the relocation of Alverton's residents. That's indeed a good idea. This matter is big enough to shake the north, and we can also invite the other households to join the subjugation. This way, they will witness Sir Galliner's power themselves. The more she spoke, the more excited she became. Let's do it this way. All right, I will send word to the noble houses of the north. Lucas approved the plan. With his help, Alaric was certain that more than half of the noble houses in the north would join the orc subjugation. Lucas looked at his son and said, I will leave this task to you since I will be going to the capital to accept the challenge. You can rest assured, my lord. I won't fail this mission. Alaric promised. Sir. Mission, orc subjugation Mission difficulty, normal. A large orc settlement is built near Alverton, and it has disrupted the peace of the nearby cities and towns with the increase in orc attacks. Gather a large force sufficient to destroy the orc settlement. Rewards, 500 battle points, 30 EXP, 30 stat points. Random trait upgrade card X1. Penalty for failure, none. Sir. A system mission suddenly appeared before him. The missions are becoming more frequent and more difficult now. Alaric thought when he saw the mission description. Gathering an army might sound easy, but in truth, it was very hard to persuade those stubborn noble houses, especially when they had nothing to gain. Luckily, Dad will be sending a letter to those houses, so things will be a lot easier. When the meeting concluded, it was almost lunchtime. His parents invited him to join them for lunch, But Alaric told them that he had other plans, so he rejected their invitation. He left the main mansion and headed straight to the guest mansion where Ivana and the rest of the elves were staying. By the time he arrived, he saw that the elves were preparing a big meal for Ivana's birthday. Alaric didn't tell anyone about Ivana's birthday, so only the elves were celebrating with her. Alaric. Ivana was pleasantly surprised to see him. "I'm sorry I'm late. I had something to discuss with my parents." Alaric apologetically said, "It's all right, come in. The food is ready." Ivana invited him to the dining hall. "All right, I'm curious to try elven dishes." Alaric nodded and followed her inside. "Believe me, it's not much different than human dishes. We just eat a variety of fruits and we also add more vegetables in our dishes." Ivana eagerly explained as she led him to the table. There was no one else inside the hall other than the elves, but they still hadn't removed their robes. "It's all right, everyone. You can trust Alaric." Ivana convinced them. The elves hesitated, but they chose to trust their princess. Chapter 144, New Daily Mission. After having lunch with the elves, Alaric headed straight to the training grounds to begin his new daily mission. Undersir. Daily mission. Set 1,000 weighted push-ups, 1,000 weighted pull-ups, 1,000 weighted squats, 1 hour weighted planking. Set B. 1,000 mana-infused vertical slashes, 1,000 mana-infused horizontal slashes, 1,000 mana-infused diagonal slashes, 1,000 mana-infused stabs. Rewards: 20 battle points, 3 EXP, 3 stat points. Penalty for failure: none. Undersir. Note: if you noticed, I changed the rewards for the new daily mission because my math wasn't matching when I wrote the previous one. I apologize for the confusion. This was the new daily mission. It offered higher rewards and there wasn't even a penalty anymore. The only issue is that he had to perform more difficult exercises that would test the limits of his physical abilities. For the weighted exercises, Alaric had to lift a huge rock weighing over 1,000 kilograms while doing the exercises. For an elite knight like him, lifting a rock over 1,000 kilograms wasn't difficult. He wasn't a normal human anymore since his physical body was enhanced by mana, improving every part of him. First, he watched the tutorial on how to perform the weighted push-ups. So nothing changed except for the added weight. After watching the tutorial shown by the cyan screen, Alaric asked a few warriors to help him tie the huge rock on his back. "My lord, what are you doing this training for?" one curious warrior asked him. Alaric's exercises weren't new to them and they were already used to it, but it seemed like he was planning something different this time. "I just want to test my limits. Only through hardships can we overcome our limitations." Alaric gave a simple response, but his words rang like thunder in everyone's ears. Alaric didn't waste any time after the rock was tied to his back. He started doing his push-ups. Everyone watched him with awe and excitement. Alaric didn't find it that hard in the first few hundred repetitions, but when he went past 500 repetitions, he could feel his muscles starting to heat up. "Now this is fun." Alaric grinned. Beads of sweat trickled down his body as he performed more repetitions. 1,000 weighted push-ups ballot box with check. "Come and help me get this rock off of me," he called out to the warriors. Hearing his voice, the warriors rushed to his side and carefully removed the huge stone. Bang! "Damn! This thing is heavy," someone exclaimed. While they were eagerly discussing, Alaric searched for a good spot to perform the weighted pull-ups. "This spot should be good. I hope this one will hold out." Alaric mumbled as he looked at the gates of the training grounds that sported 2 large pillars carrying an arched stone that connected the two. He rested for a full minute before he jumped and grabbed the arched stone. "Come and help me tie that rock on my shoulders," he instructed the warriors. The warriors were stunned, but they quickly did as he instructed. 5 men had to lift the heavy rock and another 2 tied it with thick ropes to his shoulders. At this moment, Warwick and more warriors just came to the training grounds when they saw this scene. Feeling confused, Warwick beckoned to a warrior and asked, "What's going on here?" The warrior smiled bitterly and replied, "Sir, It seems like Lord Alaric is increasing the intensity of his training. Just a while ago, he performed 1,000 push-ups with that huge rock on his back. What? Warwick was dumbfounded. Even he had never trained that hard before. Ha ha ha. It's no surprise that Lord Alaric is growing too fast with this kind of training. Maybe I should follow his example. Henry, who was standing next to him, laughed heartily. Meanwhile, Alaric had already started performing the weighted pull-ups. He had just performed 1,000 push-ups, so the fatigue was starting to accumulate. Everyone watched him while excitedly guessing how many repetitions he could make. 100, 200, 300, they silently counted in their minds. When Alaric reached his 800th repetition, his movements started to slow down. Everyone could see that he was tired, but Alaric didn't give up and pushed through 1,000 repetitions with sheer willpower. As soon as he completed the exercise, he imbued mana into his hand and made a swiping move to cut the ropes that tied the rock to his shoulders. 1,000 weighted pull-ups ballot box with check. Bang! The ground trembled as the heavy stone fell. Alaric jumped down and rested for a few minutes. Damn it! This is a lot harder than I thought. I'm not even halfway done, but I'm already this tired. Alaric complained inwardly. After his rest, he performed the next 2 exercises for over an hour. 1,000 weighted squats ballot box with check. 1 hour weighted planking ballot box with check. He completed the weighted squats fast, but he couldn't do the same with the weighted planking since it has a 1-hour requirement. He collapsed after doing the planking and he didn't get up for 5 minutes. The next set of exercises is a combination of sword and mana training. They aren't as physically demanding, but I'm sure it won't be easy. Alaric lifted his weary body and grabbed his swords. For the next exercises, he planned to perform them with 2 swords. He ignored the watchful eyes of the warriors and began with the first exercise of set B, which was 1,000 mana-infused vertical slashes. In the next moment, Alaric released his mana, revealing his realm as an elite knight. He had already discussed this with his parents, so he wasn't afraid to display his strength. Elite knight! Warwick and the other elite knights present at the scene were the first ones to notice his power. Everyone was stunned. Alaric had only become a knight half a year ago, but he had already advanced to another realm. Alaric heard their exclamations, but he didn't stop his exercises. 1,000 mana-infused vertical slashes ballot box with check. 1,000 mana-infused horizontal slashes ballot box with check. 1,000 mana-infused diagonal slashes ballot box with check. 1,000 mana-infused stabs ballot box with check. Daily mission complete. You received 20 battle points. You received 3 EXP. You received 3 stat points. Chapter 145. Giving the half-used Beast Soul Crystal to Warwick. Due to the effects of your trait mana gathering C, you received 1 mana. So that's how it works? He was pleasantly surprised. He had almost forgotten about this trait since he hadn't found out its effect. Now he finally understood how it worked. So I can activate the trait by simply doing mana training, but the requirement is quite strict. I only gained 1 mana by doing all those mana-infused sword exercises. Alaric lamented as he opened his profile. Alaric Silver Sword Elite Knight EXP 0, 3/1000. Potential A. Traits: Horseback Riding C. Swordsmanship SSS. Close Combat C. Archery F. Hunting E. Tracking E. Sixth Sense E. Monster Affinity F. Mana Gathering C. Strength 150. Stamina 150. Agility 150. Vitality 150. Endurance 150. Mana 150. 151. Battle points 0, 20. Stat points 42, 45. Requirements for the next advancement: 1,000 EXP, 250 in all attributes, and 10,000 battle points. Alaric was exhausted, but he was happy that his efforts were rewarded. The rewards of the new daily mission are great, but it requires too much time. Just today alone, I spent several hours doing everything. Good thing there's no penalty for not completing the new daily mission. Otherwise, I will be done for if I'm in a situation where I can't do the exercises. Alaric thought. At this moment, Warwick and the others finally approached him. My lord! They greeted him with even more respect now that he had become an elite knight. Before this, their respect stemmed from the fact that he was the heir of House Silversword and his incredible talent for swordsmanship, but it was different now that he had become an elite knight. He was already standing on the same level as them. Alaric got up and returned their greeting. My lord, since when did you become an elite knight? Warwick asked while staring at him with a serious face. Just yesterday. Alaric shrugged without bothering to explain. Seeing that he had no intention to disclose the details, he no longer pressed the matter. I see. Congratulations on your advancement. My lord! Congratulations, my lord! Everyone showered him with congratulatory words. Alaric responded to them one by one. By the way, Sir Warwick, I have something for you. Please follow me to my study. Alaric turned his head toward Warwick. The latter raised an eyebrow, feeling curious about his invitation, but he still nodded in response. Yes, my lord. Also, please inform the workers to repair that. Tell them to make it more durable. Alaric pointed at the arch stone that he used in his pull-ups. There was noticeable damage to the architecture because of the unexpected weight that it had to carry. Everyone smiled wryly upon hearing this. Yes, my lord. After giving a few more instructions, Alaric nodded to Warwick and left the training grounds. Warwick quietly followed him. Just as they were about to enter the main mansion, they saw Roland with two of his subordinates walking toward them. My lord! Roland cupped his fists. Suddenly, Roland widened his eyes. Elite knight! Alaric seemed to have sensed his shock and sent him a smile. What's up, Sir Roland? He asked. Roland cleared his throat while gathering his thoughts. We have overstayed here, so I'm here to bid you farewell. Although it's rather unfortunate that you won't be joining our side. He expressed his regret with a long sigh. It is indeed unfortunate, but I hope that this won't affect our friendship. Alaric shook his head, also feeling regretful. Of course not. Roland shook his head and smiled. That's good. Alaric's face suddenly turned serious as he said, I hope that you will properly convey our concerns to His Highness. We don't want the Empire to fall into ruin, so we are making this choice. Roland understood his worries. This was also one of his concerns once the two princes would clash. He was certain that their battle would cause great damage to Estania. I understand. I will convey your message to His Highness. You can rest assured, my lord. He promised. The two exchanged a few more words before Roland left with his subordinates. Looking at his departing figure, Alaric smiled. We will meet again soon, my friend. I'm sure we will. He is a respectable warrior, Warwick commented. Amen. Alaric hummed in agreement. When they could no longer see Roland's group, Alaric turned around and uttered, Let's go. Warwick nodded and followed him inside the main mansion. Alaric brought Warwick to his study and took the beast soul crystal of the Orc Lord that was hidden in his desk's drawer. Galliner had only used less than half of the energy it contained, so there's still plenty of energy left. You have done well in performing your duties. You deserve this reward. I hope that you will advance with the help of this beast soul crystal. Alaric handed him the crystal. My lord, this is... Warwick was flabbergasted. He could tell that it was the beast soul crystal of the Orc Lord. Although some of its energy was gone, it still contained enough energy to facilitate his advancement. Please take it, Sir Warwick. Warwick no longer hesitated after seeing his insistence. Thank you, my lord. I won't fail your expectations. He had been an elite knight for a long time, but he hadn't found a chance to break through because of the lack of natural resources and mana. However, with this beast soul crystal, not to mention a week, he would probably advance in just a few days. Alaric tapped his shoulder. Keep up the good work. He offered a few more words of encouragement to the veteran elite knight before he sent him out of his study. After Warwick left, Alaric took his seat. Once Sir Warwick becomes a transcendent knight, House Silversword will have 3 transcendents. There's Sir William too. If only I could convince him to officially join us. Maybe there will be a chance once we gather the surrounding forces for the orc subjugation plan. As he thought of this, his lips curved upwards. Chapter 146. Mount Tedra, the Land of Protectors. 2 weeks passed by after that. During these 2 weeks, Alaric honored his promise to give the warriors who had died in Alverton a proper funeral. House Silversword also invited a cleric from the church to officiate the ceremony. This gesture tugged the hearts of the warriors and the families of those who had fallen. Usually, the fallen warriors would only be buried together, and there would be no ceremony whatsoever, so everyone was moved by Alaric's decision to hold the funeral. The residents of North Pinetown and the former residents of Alverton attended the event to bid farewell to the heroes who were killed to protect their lives, and also to express their gratitude for their selfless sacrifices. The funeral lasted an entire week, and the heroes were buried on top of the mountain beside the estate. The mountain was formerly called Mount Canla, but Alaric took it upon himself to rename it Mount Tedra, which means Land of Protectors when translated into common language. It was Ivana who suggested this name, and she even attended the funeral. But something came up halfway through the ceremony which forced her to leave North Pinetown. Alaric asked what happened, but the elven princess refused to tell him and decisively left after bidding him farewell. After the fallen warriors were buried, Alaric sent his subordinates to inform the families of the dead that they would receive monthly compensation and other benefits to ensure their livelihood. On the 3rd day of March in the year 209 of the Estanian calendar, Alaric was heading to Redunia to meet the leaders of the noble households in the north. When these arrogant leaders received the letter sent by Lucas Silversword, almost 80% of them agreed to join the orc subjugation. The leaders unanimously agreed to hold a gathering in Redunia, which was situated at the very center of the north. At this moment, Alaric was checking his character profile on the cyan screen. Alaric Silversword, Elite Knight, EXP, 3. 51/1000. Potential A. Traits: horseback riding C. Swordsmanship SSS. Close combat C. Archery F. Hunting E. Tracking E. Sixth sense E. Monster affinity F. Mana gathering C. Strength 150. Stamina 150. Agility 150. Vitality 150. Endurance 150. Mana 151. 167. Battle points 20. 340. Stat points 45. 93. Requirements for the next advancement: 1000 EXP, 250 in all attributes, and 10,000 battle points. He hadn't neglected his daily missions despite the busy schedule he had the past 2 weeks. Although he wouldn't be penalized for not completing his daily mission, Alaric didn't skip even a single day. The requirements this time are high, but if I strictly complete the daily missions, I should be able to fulfill everything in 3 years. He didn't dare be complacent since the future he knew was becoming more and more uncertain. On the morning of March 4th, Alaric's entourage finally arrived at the town. At the entrance of Redunia, they were received by Dylan Heinrich, the heir of the Heinrich household. He escorted them to their family's estate and showed deferential treatment to Alaric throughout the trip. Dylan openly expressed his admiration toward the latter, and he was only short on saying, "I'm willing to follow you." At this enthusiastic young knight, Alaric couldn't help but feel emotional. In his past life, their statuses were vastly different, and he could only admire Dylan's splendor from afar. "Lord Dylan, has everyone arrived?" Alaric suddenly asked, his face turning serious. The smile on Dylan's face faded when he mentioned this, and he responded with a stern voice. "Including Lord Alaric's group and our household, only 9 groups have arrived." Hearing this, Alaric frowned. 14 households promised to join the orc subjugation, and it was already close to their agreed meeting time. "Any news from them?" Alaric inquired, his voice turning cold. Dylan cleared his throat and replied, "House Ermac sent us a letter yesterday saying that they would be delayed. House Sarion also informed us that they will arrive tomorrow. As for the remaining households, He paused and observed Alaric's expression before he continued. They didn't send any letter. Alaric's face darkened. Send more messengers to those families and tell them to hurry. If they don't come before the agreed time, House Silversword will stop all our cooperation with them. In the past few months, House Silversword expanded their iron or mining business at his insistence, which turned them into the largest iron ore supplier in the north. They had even extended business dealings with many noble households. If he cut off cooperation with those families, they would definitely face a severe lack of iron ore. Dylan was stunned. For him to utter those words, this showed that Alaric, or rather House Silversword, wasn't afraid of those noble households. Yes, my lord. I will send our messengers to relay your message to them. Dylan subconsciously responded in a more respectful tone. Amen. Alaric hummed in response. Soon, the walls that surrounded the estate of House Heinrich came into view. We're almost there, my lord, Dylan said as he pointed in the direction of their estate. Alaric followed his gaze. House Heinrich's estate was strategically located on top of a hill. In case of a siege, they would have a higher ground, making it harder for invaders to attack. On top of the walls, he also saw some warriors occasionally patrolling, ensuring that no trespassers were nearby. They headed straight to the main gate where a welcoming group was waiting for them. Among them was Baron Smith Heinrich, the head of the household. As soon as the carriage stopped, Alaric got off and greeted the Baron. Unlike Baron Nathan of House Paxley, this man was very particular about his health. He looked strong and fit with the visible muscles on his arms. Furthermore, he was also an elite knight. Alaric approached the Baron with a confident gait. Meanwhile, Dylan matched his pace, but he subconsciously maintained a distance of half a step behind him. I'm pleased to meet you, my lord. Alaric's face broke into a smile as he greeted the Baron. Chapter 147. Meeting of the North's Giants. Baron Smith Heinrich had been observing Alaric the moment he stepped out of the carriage, and the young man gave him a strong impression. Alaric was completely different compared to someone his age. He already had the dignity of a lord, and he also had this unique charisma that made others subconsciously follow him. He is very much like his father. He thought in his heart. I'm pleased to meet you, my lord. Facing Alaric's polite greeting, Baron Smith responded with a smile. I'm honored to meet you, Lord Alaric. I hope your journey was smooth. The two exchanged polite remarks before Baron Smith introduced the people who came with him. 3 were middle-aged men, and the last one was an old man who looked to be in his late 60s. It turned out that these 4 were heads of noble households. No wonder they looked so familiar. Alaric thought to himself. He disregarded them earlier, thinking that they were merely cousins or brothers of the Baron. Alaric respectfully greeted them one by one. After greeting each other, Baron Smith suggested that they continue their conversation inside his mansion. He also sent his men to inform the other family heads about Alaric's arrival. An hour later, Alaric and the family heads gathered in a meeting hall inside House Heinrich's mansion. Other than the family heads, they also brought their most trusted guards, with each of them bringing 2 at most. Meanwhile, Alaric brought Galliner and Fredrin with him. In front of these family heads, he had to show some power to maintain the prestige of House Silversword. At this moment, Baron Smith sent Alaric a knowing look. Sensing his gaze, Alaric cleared his throat before he opened his mouth. Everyone. His voice was calm and unhurried, but the moment he spoke, everyone shut their mouths and turned their gazes toward him. First, I would like to thank you all for coming all the way here. Alaric started with some opening remarks, expressing his gratitude to the ones who attended. He then took a short pause before he headed to the main topic. He stood up from his chair and said, As mentioned in my father's letter, we spotted a large orc settlement in this location. He pointed to a certain location on the map pasted on the table. It was an area close to Alverton. He circled this spot with his finger and continued. Based on our investigation, there are approximately 7,000 to 10,000 orcs in this settlement. When the family heads heard this, there was a collective gasp of surprise. This wasn't mentioned in Lucas's letter. They all thought that there were only 1,000 orcs at most, so they were stunned when he revealed this information. Suddenly, a family head spoke up. "My lord, if there are that many orcs, how can we even defeat them? Even if we were to gather all our warriors, we would only have slightly over 1,000 at most. To defeat an orc settlement of that size, we need at least 5,000 warriors." Some family heads nodded in agreement. None of them wanted to fight a losing battle, especially one without much to gain. Alaric glanced at the man who had spoken. He was the oldest man in the room, and his territory was also the largest since he controlled a big part of Vale. His name was Argus. He was a baron, and he was also a retired warrior whose realm was at the level of knights. He might not be gifted as a warrior, but he was a shrewd leader who had one of the highest seniority in the north. Alaric looked away from the old baron and scanned the faces of the family heads as he said, "I'm sure you are aware of the recent attack on Alverton. Do you know how many orc warriors attacked the town at that time?" His voice was calm, and everyone also sensed a trace of coldness in his tone. "More than 1,000. Everyone's eyes widened upon hearing this. They were aware of the recent orc attack, but they didn't know that it was at such scale. "With only less than 200 warriors, we managed to defeat them." His dignified voice drifted into everyone's ears. The family heads stared at the young man in disbelief. Orc warriors were known for their strong physical bodies and aggression. Normal warriors would have difficulty handling a single orc warrior. While they were reeling in shock, Alaric continued, "It is not impossible to defeat them with smaller numbers. We only have to outwit them. Take a look at this place here." Alaric pointed at the map. The orc settlement is located in a large cave within this mountain. Initially, they stayed here, but because of the freezing temperature, they relocated to the cave. "Here's what I plan to do." Alaric had already planned things with his mother before coming here, so he presented what they had prepared to the family heads. At first, everyone didn't think much of it, but the more they listened, the more astonished they became. "My lord, if I may speak." The one who spoke was still Baron Argus. Everyone turned their gazes toward the old man. "Your plan is feasible, but you mentioned that there are orc warriors patrolling outside the mountain. If they notice us, it could destroy our plans, and we may even have to confront them head-on. If we are to clash with their army, do you think we can win against them, considering that Lord Lucas wouldn't join us in this battle?" The old man asked with a deep look. Alaric's plan was brilliant, but one mistake could make things go wrong. He wanted to know if Alaric had an alternative solution in case an unexpected situation happened. Sensing everyone's eyes on him, Alaric simply smiled as he beckoned to Galliner. "Sir Galliner, please reveal your aura, so that these gentlemen can be assured about our victory." Hearing his command, Galliner, who was standing quietly behind Alaric, immediately stepped forward and released his aura. Chapter 148. The True Objective of House Silversword. Transcendent Knight. The warriors who had followed their lords exclaimed in shock when they felt the oppressive aura akin to a heavy mountain coming from him. When the lords heard their subordinates' words, they were stupefied. They attended this meeting to show respect to House Silversword, but the main reason was Lucas's deterrent power. Another transcendent knight? Baron Argus almost fell from his seat after Galliner revealed his aura. The former was a knight, so he could sense the overwhelming presence of the latter. He had only felt this kind of pressure from Lucas and the few transcendents that he had met. At this moment, everyone finally realized why Alaric was so confident about this orc subjugation plan. It turned out that a new transcendent knight had appeared in their household. The first one to regain his composure was Baron Nathan, who had been quiet the entire time. He slapped the table out of excitement and laughed heartily. "Good. With Sir Galliner and Lord Alaric leading us in battle, what is there to be worried about? Ha ha ha." He had been silent this entire time since he was thinking about how he should pull out of this operation. However, the moment Galliner revealed his power, he immediately discarded the thought. Heck, this was a transcendent knight, a powerful human weapon that could kill dozens of enemies in a single strike. Indeed, with Sir Galliner's power and Lord Alaric's brilliant plan, this mission would definitely be successful. Another lord chimed in. The lords no longer hesitated, and everyone readily expressed their desire to join the mission. Looking at the arrogant lords who were now flattering him like experienced bootlickers, Alaric smiled faintly. This is the commanding power of a transcendent knight. He thought to himself. If he had come here without Galliner, half of these lords might have pulled out from the plan. This was why it was important to have a strong leader in the army. Just their presence alone could drastically increase the army's morale. Is this enough, Lord Argus? Alaric turned his head toward the old baron who was still reeling in shock. Hearing Alaric calling out his name, Baron Argus cleared his mind and subconsciously adjusted his posture. He no longer dared to treat this young man lightly. With a transcendent knight at his command, only an idiot would oppose him. With a forced smile on his aged face, the baron responded. Enough. It's more than enough, my lord. Alaric nodded with a pleased look. Great. He scanned everyone's faces and said, if someone wants to pull out, please raise your hand. The lords glanced at each other with bitter smiles. No one raised their hand, making Alaric smile wider. Then I assume that everyone here is willing to participate in the orc subjugation. He then turned his gaze towards Smith Heinrich. Lord Smith, please ask these gentlemen how many warriors they can send and give me the report later. Alaric didn't want to give them too much pressure, so he hinted that he would leave the hall. Baron Smith stood up and nodded. Yes, my lord. I will get it done immediately. Alaric hummed in response and excused himself before he left the hall with his subordinates. After he left, the lords slumped into their seats, looking like defeated generals. The bitterness on their faces was evident. Do you guys think there is a deeper reason behind this orc subjugation? One of the lords asked. The question he raised garnered everyone's attention. Everyone subtly felt that there was a bigger motive behind this operation. What do you think, Lord Argus? The lords stared at the old baron. He was the one with the most experience in the hall, so they wanted to hear his opinion. Argus shook his head as he inwardly grumbled at the dumbness of these lords. A bunch of clueless idiots. He had a general idea of what House Silversword's goal was for this mission. He realized this when Alaric revealed Galliner's existence. It's simple, the old man uttered. House Silversword wants the Empire to know that the North is their territory. His words exploded like a bomb, shaking them to their core. So arrogant? The old man sneered. They have the capital to be arrogant. Even in the central cities, only the dukedoms and a few other big territories have two transcendents at their disposal. While the lords were nervously comprehending his words, Argus leaned on his seat while rubbing his temples. It seems like they don't intend to participate in the battle for the throne, and they plan to use the orc subjugation to tell everyone in the Empire that they have two transcendents. What a carefully laid out plan. Is this your work again, Maria Keller? Maria's role in House Silversword was already known by everyone. She was the brain of the household, and almost all the big decisions of the family were planned out by her. Argus was faced with a conundrum. On one side, the second prince who had extended an invitation to him, asking for his support. On the other hand, there was House Silversword, a tiger that had finally bared its fangs. He thought hard, but he couldn't come up with a decision. In the end, he gave up on thinking and let out a long, exhausted sigh. At this moment, Baron Smith clapped his hands to gather their attention. Let's continue this conversation at another time, my lords. For now, please cooperate with me and tell me how many warriors you can bring for the orc subjugation. It would help a lot if you specify the levels of the warriors. He didn't dare neglect Alaric's instructions. I'll go first. Baron Nathan eagerly volunteered. Smith Heinrich nodded to him and said, Go ahead, Lord Nathan. Please tell me how many people you can bring. We don't have a lot of warriors right now, so I can only bring 50 warriors with me. 1 elite knight, 5 knights, and the rest will be knight apprentices and normal warriors. Chapter 149. Gathering the Warriors of the North. News about Galliner spread like wildfire in the north. No one expected the quiet House Silversword to suddenly reveal this hidden expert. The noble houses who had ignored Lucas's letter were now regretting their actions, and some even hurried over to Redunia to make amends. In the next few days since Alaric's arrival to the town, 7 more noble houses arrived. 2 of them were houses that hadn't sent a response to Lucas's message. No one could ignore House Silversword anymore, especially now that they had 2 transcendent knights. On the 10th of March, exactly a week after Alaric's arrival in Redunia, a large army had gathered outside the town. They were the warriors of the 16 noble houses who had volunteered to join the orc subjugation, their numbers totaling more than 1,200 men. At this moment, Alaric stood before this 1,000-man army, his gaze looking sharp like that of a hawk as he scanned the flags of those present. Under. Mission complete. Rewards: 500 battle points, 30 EXP, 30 stat points. Random trait upgrade card X1. Under. His eyes gleamed when he saw the notification. He then closed the cyan screen and took a deep breath before he opened his mouth. To everyone here, I commend your courage. You are the true warriors of the North. His dignified voice echoed, subconsciously making the warriors stand straight like unbending swords. We are gathered here for one purpose, and that is to destroy the orc settlement that has threatened the safety of the North. Alaric took a short pause and narrowed his eyes. We can't allow those beasts to come closer to our home, so they have to be eradicated. Everyone felt a chill when they sensed an overwhelming killing intent oozing out from his eyes. It was then that everyone realized Alaric's current power. Elite Knight. Lord Alaric is an elite knight. No way. Some warriors exclaimed in disbelief. It was only recently that they heard about Alaric's advancement to the Knight realm. However, in just half a year, he had stepped into a higher realm. A realm that only the truly powerful warriors could hope to reach, the realm of elite knights. Meanwhile, the lords were similarly stunned. The speed of his advancement made them terrified. Some of them even felt that they were witnessing the rise of a dragon that the continent had never seen. Those who held a trace of dissatisfaction after being forced to participate in this mission were now happy about their decision. Alaric jumped onto his horse and shouted, "Prepare to depart." "Yes, Lord Alaric." The warriors responded in unison. Soon, under the leadership of Alaric Silversword, the army of over 1,200 men departed Redunia. The battle hadn't even begun, but their morale was sky-high. 2 days later, a few kilometers away from Alverton, the army had temporarily set up camp. In the middle of the camp, a large tent could be seen. A pole was erected beside the tent with the flag of House Silversword hanging on top, fluttering amidst the strong winds. At this moment, inside the tent, the lords had gathered for a meeting when a scout came to give his report. "My lord, as you had suspected, Alverton is now occupied by the orcs." The scout reported to Alaric in a grim voice. Hearing this, Alaric wasn't surprised. He had already anticipated this. "What about the residents who had remained in the town?" he asked in a low voice. When the majority of the residents had relocated to North Pinetown, some people still chose to stay in Alverton. The scout's face darkened as replied, "They are being slaughtered by those beasts as we speak." His words weren't loud, but those who were present heard him clearly. "How dare those filthy creatures kill the citizens of Estania? My lord, please give me 200 men. I promise that I will destroy those beasts," one of the lords uttered with rage. Some of the lords frowned upon hearing his righteous words. They knew that he was only trying to get some brownie points from Alaric. Alaric raised his hand, indicating to the lord to keep quiet. He then beckoned to the scout and asked, "How many orc warriors are inside the town?" "We haven't done a detailed check, but based on our estimates, there should be around 500 orc warriors in the town, and they are led by 4 orc generals," the scout replied. Alaric nodded and turned his gaze at the lord who had volunteered earlier. "Lord Ermac, you heard him. There are 500 orc warriors in the town. If I give you 200 soldiers, do you have the confidence to kill every last one of them?" Everyone stared at Lord Ermac with cold smirks on their faces. Lord Ermac was tongue-tied, but when faced with everyone's mocking gazes, he had no choice. "Yes, my lord. Just leave it to me." He puffed his chest to appear as confident as he could, but everyone could see through his bluff. Alaric stared deeply at him and muttered, "Then you have my approval. Including your household, House Reno and House Elvin will follow you in this mission." Both the houses he mentioned were the ones who had ignored Lucas's letter. It was obvious that he was targeting them, but no one said a word. The lords of House Reno and House Elvin had bitter smiles on their faces. "Don't worry, I will send a team of my warriors to follow you." Alaric didn't plan to send them to their deaths. He only wanted to give them a small punishment for their actions. A team? What can a team do against 500 orc warriors? The three lords complained in their hearts. Seeing that they weren't responding, Alaric frowned. "What are you waiting for?" Terrified, the three lords immediately rose to their feet. "Yes, my lord. We will prepare immediately." The three quickly left the tent and went to gather their soldiers. Alaric didn't linger either. He adjourned the meeting and left to watch the performance of the three lords. If they did well, he would no longer make things difficult for them. Chapter 150, William's Old Dream. Alaric watched the three lords lead their army toward Alverton. For the mission of recapturing the town, he sent Fredrin and Arthur together with 15 knights to follow the three lords into battle. At this moment, a figure on a horse appeared next to him. "Are you sure about this, my lord? This might incur the displeasure of those three lords." Alaric turned his head and saw that it was William. The old man promised that he would join the orc subjugation, and he really came. Furthermore, he even brought the former mercenary group led by Geoffrey. At this moment, William was wearing his cuirass, an armor that covered his torso, made from steel, leather, and other materials. After he had put on this armor, William no longer looked like the neighborhood old man that he was when Alaric first met him. He now looked like a seasoned commander who had been through numerous battles. Alaric didn't respond to his question and asked, "Sir William, do you know what's the most important to an army?" The old man furrowed his eyebrows, but he still replied, "It should be skilled soldiers and effective battle formations." Alaric nodded. "That's true. But the most important factor in an army is their leader. A capable leader knows how to differentiate between right and wrong. If the subordinates make a mistake, then it's the leader's duty to punish them." He then looked at the more than 200 warriors disappearing in the distance, his eyes indifferent and cold. This principle must be strictly followed to ensure that the soldiers will make the most optimal decisions. He squeezed his legs, urging his horse to move. While doing this, he beckoned to the old man, signaling for him to follow. Seeing this, William kicked his horse and matched his pace. If the army has a weak leader, no soldiers would be willing to follow him. Alaric's words drifted into his ears. William didn't expect to hear this from a young man who wasn't even 20. He almost thought that he was speaking to a seasoned commander. Are these values taught to him by Lord Lucas, or did he comprehend them himself? William stared at the young man's back. For some inexplicable reason, he could feel his blood boiling, and he even felt this strange desire to follow Alaric. The retired warrior could feel the intense thumping of his heart. It was as if a dying ember was being stoked, lighting it ablaze. Should I try one more time? William never truly wanted to retire, but his injuries forced him to make that difficult decision. He once dreamed of becoming a general with tens of thousands of warriors under his command. However, that dream was cut short after he had failed his advancement to Transcendent and was even left with partial mana disability. Now, with a charismatic and capable young man worthy to follow, this old dream felt within his reach once more. While William was wrestling with his inner thoughts, the company of over 200 warriors led by the three lords had already rushed to the western gates of the town, where the defense seemed to be severely lacking. Fredrin drew his sword and kicked his horse, urging it to move faster. With his sword pointed forward, he bellowed, "Knights of House Silversword, kill them all!" Upon hearing his command, Arthur and the 15 knights roared while charging toward the orc warriors guarding the western gates. "Hey!" Lord Ermac called out, but his voice was drowned by the roars of the knights. Behind him, the army of the three lords was left behind, looking stunned as they watched Fredrin's small team rushing with reckless abandon. In the next moment, a violent slaughter unfolded. Fredrin, Arthur, and the 15 knights were like a pack of frenzied lions, butchering the orc warriors within mere seconds. It wasn't just him. Lord Ermac and Lord Elvin were similarly dumbstruck by the massacre they were witnessing. In just a blink of an eye, the more than 50 orc warriors guarding the western gates were killed. They killed those beasts just like that. Lord Ermac mumbled with his eyes wide open. Are those warriors the elites of House Silversword? Muttered Lord Reno with knitted eyebrows. They should be. They don't move like regular soldiers. Didn't you feel their aura? 15 of them are knights and the 2 leading them are elite knights. Lord Elvin, a bald middle-aged man with a thick beard, uttered in a serious voice. Fredrin glanced at the 3 lords who had just reached the western gates and said, "My lords, from this point on you will be the vanguard. Your task is to kill as many orc warriors as you can." The 3 lords frowned, dissatisfaction evident on their faces. They were lords from noble households, and they felt that it was beneath them to follow a commoner's instructions. "What about you then? What will you guys be doing?" Lord Elvin snorted. Fredrin could sense their dissatisfaction, but he couldn't care less about their feelings. With a cold voice he replied, "Our task is to eliminate the orc generals." Hearing this, if you want access to fast updates or the full novel in high-quality audio, contact me now and buy. I offer over 300 complete audiobooks from Pocket FM, Webnovel, Audible, and more. No locked episodes, no subscriptions, just one-time payment via PayPal or Ko-fi. Message me directly on Telegram or WhatsApp, or check out the full list of available novels on Discord. Start listening to your next favorite audiobook today.